Hello, hello, and welcome back to this week's episode of Embodied Divinity. Let's start by taking a big, deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth, and really just settling into this sacred space we've created together. I'm so happy to be back in this energy with you. Today, I want to take you into the heart of something deeply personal, yet profoundly universal, just like we always do here. And it's the idea that how we show up in our relationships and the kind of connections we attract as the result. This weekend, I had an experience with a dear friend that opened my eyes to the dynamics of love, communication, and care. It illuminated for me not just what I desire in relationships, but also how much I've grown and how much more there is to explore when it comes to interdependence and healthy connection. So today we're diving deep into the difference between independence, dependence, and interdependence. Healthy love, what it looks like, what it requires, and how we can cultivate it. Opening ourselves to receive connection and support, and how our energetic patterns shape the relationships and experiences we attract. So, quick energy update before we get started for those listening to this the day it's released. We just came out of yesterday's new moon in Sagittarius, and we're still hanging out, lingering in that energy. And this is really a time of optimism. The seeds we plant now are what we will be cultivating 6 months from now. And for me, I'm deepening into love. I desire to open myself to an intimate partnership. I desire to call in that kind of loving connection. And I also desire to call in abundance, prosperity, wealth. So sink into what your intention is and let that come alive within you today. But I have been mostly focused on relationships. And so, of course, the universe had to show me exactly where I was and the gap I needed to bridge in order to see where I was going. And so here we are. So let me start with the story that sparked this whole conversation. Over the weekend, a close friend of mine had been unusually quiet. A person who normally is posting on social media on the daily because it's part of their purpose and calling, and just someone I talk to often. Really, my only deep friend at the moment in life. So they'd been unusually quiet, no posts, no responses to texts, and after several days, I reached out to check in. When I didn't hear back, I let her know that not hearing from her felt uncomfortable, and that even a simple "I'm okay, just taking space" message would have been reassuring. When she finally responded, she shared that she didn't like the fact that I had worried about her, that it wasn't in alignment with how she navigates her life. And that's totally fine. We all come with our own perspective, and everyone has their own way of showing up in relationships. But it was in that moment that I realized something. I desire relationships where open communication, clarity, and care are central. Relationships where we notice and check in on each other. And for me, this realization felt like a huge shift because there was a time not very long ago in my life where I resonated with her perspective, when I was more guarded, more disconnected from the fullness of the human experience. But today, I want something different. I want relationships of deep care and intentionality. I want to be seen, to be noticed, to notice others. I want mutuality, not just in words, but in action. And here's the beautiful part. These desires are not only valid, they're a reflection of growth, healing, and alignment with love itself. And it makes me emotional to talk about because I'm the person that, and I know so many of you are too, that I always bring it back to me. And I don't have a great track record with intimate relationships. And it's so easy to blame on, oh, I had a narcissistic partner. Oh, I was with somebody who didn't know how to love. Oh, they don't know how to love me right. We don't feel good together, whatever the excuses might be. But until you're willing to say, how am I showing up and investing in this pattern? How are my actions or inactions creating more of this pattern? Until you can bring it back to you, really from that understanding of all of our relationships are mirrors of something going on within us or a pattern we've yet to realize. That's where the real empowerment comes from. And so for the last few years, I've been really examining my relationships. And of course, holding others accountable in my own mind, really noticing, yes, there were some things out of alignment in certain relationships on their part, but the only thing I have control of is my part. And so I got to ask the really hard questions. I noticed the ways that I was guarded, that I was scared to let love in, that I didn't allow others to support me, that I had to do it all on my own. And it felt so good as I typed a response to my friend this weekend about the kind of relationship I was ready to show up for. Because that had never been true for me before, and it had never felt safe for me before. And now I am so fucking ready for it. So let's start off first by talking about interdependence. We've talked about codependence on this show a lot. We've talked about all the different types of love. Let's talk about interdependence. For a long time, we've been fed this narrative that independence is the goal, that needing no one is a sign of strength. But the truth is, we're not designed to do life alone. Interdependence is the middle path between dependence and independence. It's the dance of giving and receiving, of being there for others while also allowing them to be there for us. This is something that has felt so scary to me my whole life. I have done everything on my own since I was 4 years old. And I realized about 2 years ago, I think it was my mom that said to me, like, I can't remember the exact words, but a phrase I've heard way too often of, you're so strong, you'll get through this. And I just looked at her and I said, I don't want to be strong anymore. I want to be held. I want to be supported. And this is a huge part of interdependence. Healthy interdependence looks like open, honest communication, mutual respect for boundaries and needs, checking in not because we want control, but because we care, trusting that we're safe to lean on each other without losing ourselves. This isn't weakness, this is strength. It takes courage to let people in, to trust that they'll hold you and show up with the same intention. When my friend didn't respond to me this weekend, no part of me took it personally. I didn't wonder if I had done anything wrong or why she wasn't responding. My heart was just so open to, I really truly hope she's okay, hope she's safe. And I also want that reciprocated energy. And in our friendships and in our family relationships, it's the perfect place to practice healthy interdependence before entering into a intimate partnership or relationship with a significant other. And it's what I'm choosing to do over the next several months as I call him in, is to get so good at both giving and receiving, about allowing myself to be supported as I support others. But so many of us struggle with receiving. We talked about this, I think it was last week or the week before. Whether it's support from others, help from friends, or even signs and blessings from the universe, there's a part of us that says, I've got this. I don't need help. But what if receiving is part of the human experience? What if being held by others and by the divine is just as sacred as standing on our own 2 feet? Here's how we begin to open ourselves up to receive. Well, we're going to do a quick recap of what we learned in the receiving episode. Number 1, we acknowledge our desires. Wanting connection and support doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. And here on Embodied Divinity, as we embody our divinity, we are here to live the fullness of the human experience, knowing all the while that we are consciousness in this human form, having this human experience. And the human experience is all about relationship. So we're acknowledging our desires. Set the tone. Show up in your relationships the way you want others to show up for you. Be the friend who checks in, the partner who communicates, the person who cares deeply. Even if it feels scary, even if it's not reciprocated, you set the tone. And if they cannot meet you, then you have your answer about whether or not that relationship is in alignment with your desires. And it's absolutely okay to say, I'm saying no to this so I can say yes to what I truly desire. And number 3, trust the universe. Believe that the love and support you give will come back to you. Maybe not, probably not from the same people, but in ways you can't even currently imagine. The more we practice receiving, the more we align with the flow of life itself. So let's move into looking at how the way that we show up in our relationships is a mirror of what we attract into our lives. If we guard our hearts, we attract guarded energy. If we show up with openness and love, we attract that in return. This is where the work begins, not by changing others, but by aligning ourselves with the kind of energy we want to experience. I know that I want a partner who is emotionally available, who knows how to communicate directly and openly, who can speak his truth, who can honor his love, and who can love me fully and completely without fear. And so I get to be that person, as scary as it may be, in all my current relationships. Ask yourself this. Number 1, am I communicating clearly and honestly? Number 2, am I offering the same level of care and attention I want to receive? Number 3, am I creating the energetic space where healthy love, healthy interdependent love can thrive? and just be really honest with yourself with these answers. A lot of times I find, not only in myself, but also in so many of my clients, that we set these crazy standards and expectations, and then we're not even able to meet them ourselves, but we desire them in another. And so this is that really beautiful work of opening yourself to the kind of love you want to receive by being that love first. When we embody what we desire, the universe takes notice. We become magnets for the kind of relationships we've been dreaming of. So here are 3 ways to bring this into your life starting today. Number 1, set an intention for your relationships. What kind of connection do you want to cultivate? Write it down, meditate on it, and take action to embody it. Number 2, practice healthy communication. The next time you're feeling unclear or disconnected, speak up with love. Let others know what you need. Number 3, check in with yourself. Notice where you might be guarding your heart. And what would it look like to open up just a little more, just a little deeper? This is the work of building relationships that are not only healthy, but sacred. For me, as I've been diving into this the last little while, I'm setting the intention every morning to feel love and connection with each and every person, being, and thing that I encounter. So I start my morning off with a meditation. So before I came down here, I came home from the gym, I got in the shower, I sat in my bed, and I meditated. And I visualized every single person that I had come into contact with that morning, all of the strangers at the gym, all of the people in my household, my kids, my dogs, myself. I thought about the people I would interact with throughout the day, the clients who are on my schedule, the family members I knew I'd be speaking to. I thought about my neighbors, the people I might run into at the grocery store. And I envisioned this beautiful heart-centered connection between me and all of them. And I repeated, I am connected to everyone and everything. I let myself be open to the raw emotion of being vulnerable and open. And every day as I move through the day, I'm setting the intention to check in with my heart. Is my heart open in this moment? Am I feeling guarded? If I'm feeling guarded, I ask, why am I feeling guarded? And how can I open more to the love that is available to me in this moment? And it's this beautiful, intentional work that we get to carry with us throughout the day. I know for me, there was so long when I was trying to attract a love, but I wasn't being sincere about it. I wasn't being intentional about it. I was kind of just saying it was something I wanted, maybe randomly journaling about it. But I realized I want someone who's so sincere about me. And so I started to be really incredibly intentional about this practice, to really look at myself and take all of the steps that I'm taking so that when I welcome him into my life, I am ready and I know that he'll be ready too. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with this. Love, connection, and care are not just luxuries. They are lifelines. When we embrace interdependence, we honor the truth that we're not meant to journey through life alone. When we open ourselves to receive, we let the universe show us just how supported we are. So let's commit to showing up, to leaning in, and to creating relationships that reflect the highest vibration of love. Thank you guys for being here with me. As always, breathe deep and plan on miracles. I love you so dearly. Talk soon.